Oh, hello there. Yes, well, every once in a while, I'm right. Yeah, as I said yesterday about the policy exchange report into all of the enormous savings that we can probably, possibly, maybe, just about, might do. Never know. It's worth a try. Get from the civil service. Yes. We had this yesterday from Reformer's propagandist in chief. It's Joseph Goodwin here. Yeah, a new report suggests the British people could save $5 billion a year by slashing and streamlining the civil service. We need to radically reform the UK state. Oh, great, yes. Because, of course, one of the beauties of all those lovely boys and occasional girls, but mainly boys, at Tufton Street is just when you need a report to basically, come along at the right time, magically a report comes along at the right time. Odd that, isn't it? Yeah, I'm glad they're not being investigated by, the Charities Commission. No, that's just their friends in the same building. Anyway, yeah, and of course Richard Tice, that's just the first course. Then comes the main event and dessert, because we can look across the pond, can't we, at what's going on in the States. Yeah, and how brilliant that's been with Elon Musk. Except, of course, any sensible writer in the British media is actually saying, well, that hasn't worked at all, has it? Because all he's done is simply, well, apart from the inevitable, grabbing the data for his little AI machines, what he's done effectively is just cut things that people like him don't like, which is stuff that, keeps people alive. On a blunt level, that's it, isn't it? Medicaid, Medicare, the other social security stuff he doesn't need and none of his mates need, but we can just pretend that nobody needs it because something lazy people. Yes, anyway, good news about the policy exchange, obviously. Hurrah for could and suggest, yes. And, this leads then on to the rest of the media kind of just warbling about things. So we had that again from Joseph yesterday, interviewing a reformed blokey. Stop duplication and silly jobs that deliver nothing. That creates a surplus. Reformed UK councillor McIvory Jamery says reformed councils will doge town halls and finally give taxpayers value for money. Yeah, all that stuff we've had for the last 15 years, that austerity thing, or is it like Lord Frost says that it hasn't existed? Anyway, all that stuff, apparently that was just a mirage. It hadn't actually existed. Yeah, one is thinking about those people that run out of cash and they delve behind the sofa and they manage to sort of dig out £3.50, and after they've gone down the shops and bought a loaf of bread and something and they come back, they think, well, I might have missed some. Yeah, because you might just have an extra 80 quid that you haven't seen down there. It's not a thing, is it? It's not a way to do things. No. Still, never mind. I'm sure Matt won't ask any awkward questions of James or McIvory or James. I don't care, or whatever. Yeah. But the basic problem with this is that we live in an age when the media is dominated by people in the 60s. This is partially the kind of legacy media thing, but effectively the over 55s plus all the way up to about 80 are the people that consume this stuff. And they've now reached that stage whereby they can have a rosy view of the past when everything was great. Now, unfortunately, that might not actually be true. We had this from Susan Hall. Yeah, she still gets interviewed. Yeah, abject failure to become mayor in London. Abject failure. Yeah, a woman that, famously decided that because she dropped her purse on the tube, that it was indicative of the enormous crime wave. Yeah. The purse she got handed back with all her money and other stuff in with. They're evil. They're evil, those Londoners. And if you don't go there, it's really true. And if you do go there, it's probably true. And if you live there, it's not true. But you just get on with it, don't you? Anyway, yeah, we had this again being interviewed, this time, of course, by the gorgeous and pouting Talk TV team. Exactly the same people, realistically. Susan Hall, Tory leader on the London Assembly, says she'd install AI cameras at London Underground stations to tackle fare dodgers. If you're prepared not to pay for your fare, you're likely to be the type that would probably do something equally illegal. Yes, and I think Susan is the type that would equally tell us absolute porkies about nothing at all. A bit like Robert Jenrick, a guy who is quite happy to, bend the rules for his rich mates and around planning applications. What kind of man would do that? What kind of evil man would do that? Well, a Robert Jenrick would, and a Tory would, wouldn't they? Yeah, because that's all they do, isn't it? Very nice people when it comes down to it. But I can recall back in the 60s that there were umpteen stories, certainly in the 1970s when I was a bit more aware of the news, about how old people were scared to go out because of all the crime. Except, of course, now we have this idea that it was a nirvana of peace when you could leave your door open because stuff, realistically, and all the neighbours loved each other and helped each other, and anyway, I was only 3 and my mum looked after me. That in itself is just ultimately very, very depressing. Can we just, for God's sake, just have a sensible discussion about things that might actually work? Because the stuff that's coming out of the Trump administration is making all of us poorer very directly. That's why there are still high interest rates, even though we're basically the entire world's in recession and will continue to do so. It's because nobody wants to do anything because there is such uncertainty because of all the dodging that's going on and the inevitability of, or the enormous likelihood of, an American recession. Sorry, at best. It's farcical what we aren't being told. But of course, Talk TV and GB News won't ever say that because it doesn't fit any form of narrative they're interested in. They're simply interested in having tax cuts for their mates, and the only way that they can pay for that is to persuade you to vote Reform, who will magic this money up, and you won't have any downside to it whatsoever. If all of those civil servants are slashed in the same way they were 2010, then you may well find yourself waiting 6 to 8 months for a passport. But it's a price well worth paying, isn't it? Because private sector efficiency or something. Anyway, do have a glorious day if you can do. I have to go back to work tomorrow. Yeah. Anyway, enjoy.